for Good with Funding for Good. Today we're going to talk about what is the best way to make an ask to a loyal donor. When I say loyal donor, I am referring to people who have been with your organization for a while, who have made repetitive gifts, maybe they're annual donors or monthly donors, or maybe they're major donors. People who have been involved with your organization, maybe they're a volunteer or maybe they refer people to your services, people who you have a relationship with. The ultimate goal, as we all know as development workers, is to build a relationship with your donors. So it might not happen in year one, it might not happen in year two as much as you'd like, but you should know who your loyal donors are. And it's come up lately with several of the folks that we work with about what's the best way to make an ask to those folks. A lot of people send out mass mailings, mass emailings, whether it's a direct mail, an acquisition mail, or just a donor touch, and feel like it's okay to make an annual ask in that way. My personal perspective, and those of a lot of my consultant colleagues, is that you don't need to be making asks to loyal donors via the mail. I personally don't respond to mailed asks for gifts, whether it's an organization that I have a relationship with or whether it's a new organization. I might be in the minority there, but I prefer to be asked or to be asked at an event. Leads us to the second place a lot of people like to ask is at an event, because they can do mass asking. You can ask a whole room full of people at one time for a gift, and a lot of people will fill out a pledge card or make a gift that day, that night, at that time. And so it's a great way to acquire a lot of donors, potentially even new donors, at one time. The problem with that, in my perspective, is this. I am a donor to several organizations, and depending on the size of your nonprofit, I could be considered a small donor or a large donor. I have an organization that I have given anywhere from $200 a year to $1,000 or more a year, and so depending on where you are, you can determine if I would be a major donor for you or not. But I know from sitting down and deciding ahead of time, if I'm going to go to an event and be asked, this is how much I'm going to give. If the person that I have a relationship with at that organization comes to me personally and asks, Mandy, we know this is how much you gave last year. We're very grateful for your gift. This is what we've done with it. This is the impact it's had. We would like for you to consider making a gift of this amount for this year. If that amount is greater than what I had already predetermined I was going to give, there is a huge likelihood that I am going to give that amount, because the person that I have a relationship with is asking me, and they're telling me why. They're not telling me in front of 400 other people and expecting me to feel like that was personal. They're not sending me a letter in the mail and expecting me to think that that was personalized just for me. They are coming to me and asking. Now, real life situation, worked at a nonprofit. They wanted us to grow an annual campaign by 25% in a year, which is a lot. So those development staff that are out there listening to this right now are going, oh my gosh, that's like the impossible dream. It's doable, but it's hard work. We did that in a year, but we didn't do it by acquiring a ton of new donors. We did it by continuing to build and grow the relationship we had with our current donors. It was a lot of face-to-face asks. It was a lot of meeting, calling, and asking people for a gift and an increase and why. That is more successful, will keep your donors in the long run, and will help you build your annual gifts, your endowment gifts, whatever kind of fundraising you're doing right now, a whole lot quicker than mail asks or mass asks. I'm not saying they won't raise money or they won't work, because they probably will, but you are going to get a better return on your investment, better results, if you are able to meet one-on-one with your donors. My advice for that is to start with your major donors and work your way down. If you have time over the course of a year to make contact with all of your donors, that's awesome. And if you don't, at least you're starting on the end that will allow you to grow the quickest by the largest amounts with your major donors. So it's just a little something to think about. Put yourself in the position of the people you're asking, and how would you like to be asked? Take yourself out of the development person's position or the executive director's position and just think, what would make the biggest impact on you, and how would you prefer to be asked? And take that back to your donors and put that into effect. Maybe doing a poll or sending out a survey of some of your top donors, or meeting with them one-on-one and asking, what do you think is more effective? Would be a great way for you to get some feedback in your local community and with those you serve. There's a lot of different types of nonprofits out there. You know, there's animal welfare nonprofits, there's hospitals, there's educational institutions, and a ton more. And they all have very different demographics of who they serve, who their target audience is, the age ranges, the communication preferences. So you have to know who your donors are in order to be able to access them in the most effective way. So just a few things to think about tonight. Be sure to go online and check out the YouTube page at Funding for Good, and check out our blogs on fundingforgood.org if you're interested in reading a little bit more, and we'll see you next time.